Hey everybody, Doug Rucker here with DougRuckerStore.com and DougRuckerSchool.com. Pressure washing versus soft washing. What's the difference? I'm going to talk about that and my take on it from my perspective coming up next. Hey guys, so many years ago, 1979 as a matter of fact, I was a junior in high school, and also 1980 when I was a senior. I worked for a company in Largo, Florida called Master Clean, and they did pressure washing, sold pressure washers, sold pressure washing hoses, supplies. Chemicals was a big thing. I don't know if anybody in Florida has ever used chemicals like red stuff, clear pink stuff, yellow stuff, green stuff. They had all kinds of course, the rust remover now is clear pink stuff, but back then we called it white stuff. But anyway, and so I worked there part-time and pretty much swept the warehouse floors, kept the warehouse in order, cleaned the bathrooms, vacuumed the office, washed the boss's car. Pretty much anything I was told to do, I just did. And on weekends, I'd pick up some extra hours by going out and washing Florida Power GTE trucks and occasional parking garage, things of that nature. And so I was taught early on that it wasn't a term called soft washing or soft wash. It was just applying it gently. Low pressure is kind of what we used. When we cleaned the trucks and the occasional house or whatever that we were cleaning, we would use gentle pressure. We had basically downstreamed everything. That's what soft washing was back then. And we would apply with the black chemical tip that came with the pressure washer, and we'd also occasionally rinse with that, or we would use the green and red nozzle and green and yellow nozzle and stay off of the surface and let the mist kind of rinse everything. But of course it took longer, especially if you're on stucco or brick, something that's real porous. And so downstreaming to me has always been the original soft wash method, because that's how we were taught, and that's how we cleaned the trucks. We'd apply the chemical, we'd actually brush them and then rinse them with a higher volume chemical tip, less pressure. And so one guy would go around soaping down the trucks, another guy would come around rinsing. I always had the job of brushing them. So that's kind of the term, or not the term, but that's kind of where I learned what, quote, soft washing was, even though we didn't use that term. Years later, probably 10 years ago or whatever, soft washing became a marketable term through a company that is a, quote, franchise type operation. And just basically really became promoted and used as a way to get people away from pressure washers. Pressure washers were bad. That's not how you clean a house, or not how you clean a roof or whatever. Back then, when we cleaned roofs in the early 90s, when I actually started doing this as a business, we would clean roofs downstreaming the bleach mix on it, and then use the same black chemical tip and just kind of fan it off on shingle roofs, and it worked great. You'd have a little bit of grit loss, but not a whole lot if you knew what you were doing. On tile roofs, we used green or yellow tip and actually would use pressure. It wasn't anything about soft on a tile roof. Of course, if they were painted, sometimes they were easier, but the terracotta and the more porous concrete type tiles were a little bit harder. And back then in Florida, all the roofs were very easy to walk, so we just get up there and walk them and pressure wash them off and that type of thing. So anyway, few years back, soft washing became a marketable term for a franchise type operation that sold franchises and sells equipment and sold chemicals and all that kind of stuff. But the term never really caught on. Now it's slowly catching on. Occasionally we'll get a customer calling asking, about soft washing or what soft washing is. But I wanted to explain a little bit about what soft washing really is versus pressure washing. And soft washing is basically applying your bleach mix or your chemical to a surface softly using what's called a dedicated pump, and then lightly rinsing it off. And so the dedicated pump allows you to apply a stronger bleach mix than what a downstream injector can supply. And a lot of people ask me, how do I know what my downstream injector ratio is? Just let me explain to you. There are ways you can figure that out. I've never really needed to or wanted to, because I've always just looked for to see if the bleach mix is changing the color of that algae or that mildew, whether it's green, whether it's black, or whatever. And if it wasn't doing it through downstreaming, then what we used back then was a pump-up sprayer with a little bit stronger mix in it, and we'd go and spot hit the places, sometimes a full wall, and it would take a little bit of time. But that's what we were basically doing, was using the original dedicated pump, which is a pump-up sprayer. And so what a dedicated pump, like a pump-up sprayer, allows you to do is, let's say this is a 2-gallon pump-up sprayer, because it is, and I put 1 gallon of bleach in, 1 gallon of water. That gives me a 50-50 mix, 50% water, 50% bleach. You can adjust it by adding a little bit more water to get a 40%, 30%, 20%, whatever ratio that you needed, that would get you above what a downstream injector could deliver. And so that's basically what we used, is the dedicated pump in the form of a pump-up sprayer to get stronger mix ratios than what we can get out of a downstream injector. So years later, soft washing comes along. Somebody discovers it using a pump-up sprayer, and the next thing we know, are 12-volt pumps are coming out, wired, hooked into systems and hooked to tanks, so that you could carry 30, 40, 60, 80, 100 gallons of bleach, 200 gallons, whatever you needed. And people would just batch, what we call batch mix, because that's what you did in the pump-up sprayers. You batch mixed your bleach and water and your soap. And so people would use whatever size gallon tank that fit their budget and their business. And most guys would usually mix anywhere from a 30 to a 40% mix of bleach, water, and add in some soap. And so if you had a 100-gallon tank and you wanted a 30% mix, in that tank you mixed 70 gallons of water with 30 gallons of bleach. That would give you that 30% mix. If you needed to change that when you came down to clean the house to, say, a 20%, then you would guess and add a little water to it to dilute it a little bit. And so people would use 12-volt pumps, and then air diaphragms like the all-flow pumps came along. Flow jet air diaphragm pumps like what we have on our Kingslinger Soft Wash system, those came along. Even booster pumps became pretty popular, as well as gas-operated systems over here. We sell and install all of these types of systems, all flow, 12-volt, booster pumps. We've installed a few different brands of booster pumps. It just depends on what brand the customer asks for or what we guide them to. If that's what they want, that's what we install. I always recommend and try to get people to get the Kingslinger with the air diaphragm pump, simply because I feel air diaphragm, over my years after using all of these, is the most dependable. And I really like the flow jet pumps because I just feel, for me, they've been more reliable than any other type of air diaphragm pump, whether it's all flow, Yamada, some of the other brands out there. And this is not to knock off one brand or pump up another or whatever. I'm just trying to talk to you about the choices that have been out there and the choices that came along. And so that's what soft washing became, is using a dedicated pump like a pump up sprayer, but using larger tanks so you could mix larger amounts of solution and get a stronger mix than what downstreaming can offer. And so when you talk about the debate of pressure washing versus soft washing, it all comes down to, can the surface or what you're cleaning, do you need to use pressure, graffiti, oil stains, gum, things of that nature that you have to use a little bit more pressure than what a dedicated pump can deliver, because all a dedicated pump is a chemical applicator. These gas-powered machines for years are, and still are, very popular for pest control, land or lawn maintenance, applying fertilizer or pesticides or whatever. And then people started using them for a dedicated pump for applying bleach mix, and they've got, there's varying results from using those. I've used one before, didn't have too much of success with it. Ran great and worked great when it worked, but always had problems, and this was a few years back. And so what I want you to just think of is that a soft wash system, or I call it a dedicated pump, is basically a pump up sprayer on steroids, because all it's doing is allowing you to mix higher concentrations of your mix and more bulk mix, so that you don't have to stop and keep filling the pump up sprayer, pumping it up, spraying, then pumping it up, spraying, and then refilling it and all that kind of stuff. So it allows you to start working on a surface like a roof or a house or building or whatever, and not have to stop to rebatch mix or whatever. So most guys don't batch mix anymore. There are still some guys that do. Most guys use some type of mixing system that allows you to blend your bleach, water, and in some cases, some people will even blend their soap using like our Big Blend GF valve system or whatever we call it these days. That's a great way to mix your bleach, water, and soap, so you're not having to guess when you're batch mixing, like I stated before, to get that 30% mix for a roof, or 40% or 50% or whatever. Then you come down and do the house and you need to dilute it and you got to add more water. The blend systems just simply take the guesswork out of what you're trying to, what percentage you're trying to get. Most downstream injectors are going to deliver at most an 8, maybe 10% mix. I know there's some others that advertise and promote up to 30% mix if you added an inline 12-volt pump or whatever, however you achieve that. I'm not going to debate whether you can get that or not. I'm simply wanting to explain to you the difference between pressure washing and soft washing. Soft washing, again, is a marketable term, but it's really just getting your chemical mixture at a higher ratio than what you can deliver by downstreaming. If you're a new guy starting in this business and you're just going to clean the houses and driveways, you may not need to start with a dedicated pump. You may can wait on that until you're ready to take on roofs, if you ever want to take on roofs. You can get by with like an X-Jet, either modifying it or using the X-Jet in its out-of-the-box form, how it comes, and using it to get a little bit stronger mix in order to spot treat areas or full walls or whatever. That can help you get that stronger mix. Most of the times what we use, if we're on a house and it doesn't have a whole lot of black mildew, because black mildew is really what needs the higher concentration. If you got green algae, that usually can just come off downstreaming. But usually if the house doesn't have a whole lot of black mildew, then what we do is analyze, okay, is it worth pulling out the dedicated pump hose, 200 feet of hose, firing up the Kingslinger system, priming it, getting it ready, getting the bleach to come out of the nozzle, then spraying all of what we're going to need to spray, rinse the pump out, roll the hose back up? Or is it going to be faster and easier just to use a pump-up sprayer? So we'll use a pump-up sprayer sometimes on houses just to go around and spot treat areas, simply because it's just takes less time, a little bit easier, less work, that type of thing. So that's kind of what you have to decide when you're going for a, quote, soft wash type system. How much and how often are you going to use it? Here in Houston, we get tons and tons of houses that can have sometimes 3, 4, 5 different surfaces. They can be very, very dirty. So we may clean a whole building or a whole house using the Kingslinger system with the flow jet pump. But if you're cleaning in an area that may have, mostly vinyl siding, you could probably get away with just downstreaming, because vinyl siding is a smooth surface, doesn't often require a strong mix unless it's just really, really bad. But again, you could still get by with a pump-up sprayer if you wanted to. Always the easiest and the fastest way, if you've got surfaces with a ton of it, is going to be to use a dedicated pump. So you just don't have to keep remixing a pump-up sprayer, all that kind of stuff. But you just gotta, you have to, once you get experience, you figure out and can analyze how much time it's going to take you to do it with this versus setting up a dedicated pump. So gas-powered pumps, air diaphragm pumps, boosters, 12-volt pumps, they're all dedicated soft wash type pumps. Now the big key is how are they powered? So let me answer that real quick. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Hey, do me a favor, if you can, leave me a like, a comment, or a question. I really love questions. I like to help you guys out as much as I can. Hit that subscribe button, and then also hit the little bell. That way you get a notification every time I come out with a video that could help you. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell. Thanks, guys. Is how are they powered? So let me answer that real quick. Of course, your gas operated systems are powered by a gas engine. That's what powers the pump to pump the solution to your surface. Air diaphragm pumps like an All-Flow, Yamada, the Kingslinger, those use an air compressor, and the compressed air set at the proper PSI level is what's going to deliver the power to power the pump. So if you hooked a gas power, just an engine up to this, it's not going to work. It's got to have air. Booster pumps are run by electric, either a generator or plugging into the outlet at the building or the house. So it needs electrical current to power that pump to pump your mix. 12 volts run off of batteries, like a 12 volt RV marine battery. And you have wires that go to the positive side, one to the negative side. That battery is what is powering this pump in order for it to pump, draw your solution so you can apply to a building or a house. So there are all different ways you can achieve basically getting a pump-up sprayer dedicated mix at higher concentrations than what downstreaming can get you. That's really your difference between pressure washing and soft washing. Pressure washing uses the pressure washer, inline downstream chemical injector to draw your chemical mix. If it's strong enough, it'll do what it's supposed to do, which is change the color of that algae or organic staining. If downstreaming is not strong enough for the job that you're cleaning, then you need a dedicated pump of some sort, either a pump-up sprayer, 12-volt electric pump, a booster pump, a Kingslinger with the air diaphragm, or gas-operated system like that. Just remember, in any type of cleaning, exterior cleaning, when you're dealing with organic stains and you've got algae or mildew or whatever, whether it's on a roof or whether it's on a building or a surface, what you're looking for is for that bleach mix to change the color of that algae and that mildew. Once it's done that, you can lightly rinse, and that's basically soft washing in a nutshell. Don't need to use high pressure. You just have to get your bleach mix strong enough in order for it to change the color, and then rinse it off. Now, on brick surfaces and some porous surfaces, you will have to use a little bit of pressure. That's why people that used to preach against pressure washers and call them all names and negative names and all that kind of stuff, that's why you see a lot of those guys now using pressure washers, because if you've got black mold or black mildew on red brick and you spray your bleach mix on it, a strong bleach mix on it, all it's going to do is change the color of that algae, and you're basically going to see that algae still there, but it's turned white. So you've got to rinse that off. And so usually on a porous surface, you're going to have to use some type of pressure. We use an adjustable wand, or we use the low rinse nozzle on our J-rod to knock off that algae. So I hope that helps you guys understand the difference between pressure washing and soft washing. Soft washing is just using a dedicated pump, whether it's the form of a pump-up sprayer or one of these style type dedicated pumps, booster, 12-volt, gas-operated air diaphragm. And there's probably other types out there that I may not be aware of. But if you have any questions, please let me know. Like I said, leave me a comment, leave me a question. Love to help you guys out. Hopefully I haven't confused you more than you already were. But it's really a simple process to get down. And yeah, today's July 5th. Yesterday was July 4th. Hope everybody had a great 4th. Don't forget my online video school. I've got over 260 training videos. We go into a lot of this stuff in more depth on there. pressurecleaningschool.com for that. And then my monthly training that I have every month and have had for the last 10 years here in Houston. Next one's coming up, I think it's July 12th and 13th. And I already got a few guys signed up coming in for that one. Next one after that would be August, and September, on and on, so forth. So yeah, leave me a question, comment, subscribe, hit that bell so you get a notification anytime I come out with a video that could help you. Thanks so much, and y'all have a very, very blessed day today.